Broadcasting live from the Temple of Abandon on the plain of Theros, this is Tap Tap Concede.
I hear that temple has a lot of fire exits.
Well, it is actually a double joke. Because it's the Temple of Abandon, as in like reckless abandon, because it's the red-green
We're going
temple.
crazy.
But the temple is also literally abandoned. Because until...
So they partied so hard that they had to go home.
Well, until Xenagos ascended to godhood, the red-green god, the old red-green god of Theros, who I don't actually know the name of, had just pieced out. They're just taken off.
It's like, I'm out. I'm on holiday.
It was like, guys, I need to rehab so bad.
So,
He's just on somewhere on a beach with sunglasses and like a virgin, like just orange juice, and just being like, I just need to take my life back, man. I just need to reassess my priorities, dude.
He comes back in a three-piece suit. It's like, I got a real job now.
yeah.
I thought Rakdos were the partiers, not Gruul. I thought Gruul was just like...
And then his old acolytes are
Well,
just
on
like,
Theros,
hey, man.
red-green is the... I mean, Xenagos is... He's Xenagos the Reveler.
Oh, I guess
And then he turns into
satyrs and all that
Xenagos,
stuff.
god of revels. Right?
Okay.
Party.
Have
like
more
the-
wine.
Exactly.
Listen to my wicked
God of keg
Get
stands.
crunk.
flute.
Maybe the original red-green god just had that thing where they drank a lot of wine and they sent an embarrassing email to like Heliod and they had to like, like go on a long vacation.
I could talk it out, but it's so awkward.
Welcome to Tap Tap Concede, everybody. I'm Graham, and Kathleen is here.
Hi.
And joining us this week is Alex
YOLO swag.
and our good buddy Serge.
Hi.
And we're going to crack a pack, as usual, and then in response to some questions on our Twitter account, we're going to do some sort of like, so you've literally never drafted before primer.
What I do.
Yeah, you've just sat down at the drafting table, or actually probably a little bit before you sit down at the drafting table. Oh no, what am I doing?
Yeah, or maybe your friends have invited you to a draft, or you've joined like a local like play group or something like that, and they're like, all right, so this week or this month or whatever, our format is draft, and you're like,
Uh-oh.
Even better, you sign up for a friendly PTQ, a standard event, and you're like, oh, I'm going to have some fun. You're like, oh no, I made it to the top 8, and now I have to draft?
it seems extremely unlikely you'd make
No,
it.
no way. You just mize out, and you're like,
So Serge has never
winning.
rolled, right?
Serge has rolled in the old big D20, I think.
Well.
But here you go.
smashy.
So roll the
Straight
D10.
downgrade.
So 1, the critical failure is Homelands, and 10 is a reroll because we
pressure.
only have 9 packs right now.
All right, one time, no whammy.
Yeah. Do it up.
Oh, whammy.
Whammy.
We rolled a 1.
That's amazing. So let's get into this.
Why do we even have Homelands packs?
Don't worry about
Because someone sent us 6 of them.
Oh, that was nice of them.
We've got more. That's the thing, is that...
it. Well, the good news is
that's
next
the
week
problem.
we won't have one.
No.
Go up on the shelf. The whammies,
no.
the
All right.
whammies replace themselves.
Well,
All
at
right,
least it's
so
fast. There's only like 6 cards.
there's
right?
there's 8. Yeah, it's as a reminder, hidden away by a mysterious wizard for generations, the forgotten world of Homelands awaits discovery. Revealed within are many peoples, cultures, and creatures in a realm of complex allegiances and sinister plots. What secrets will you uncover as you venture into Homelands?
This
I like
block is dirt.
Hidden away and forgotten. How
It's
accurate.
not even a block. It's just the one expansion.
Manufacturer suggested retail price $1.75.
Oh, man.
All
I
right.
think you could still get them for $1.75.
Hey, a legendary creature.
Ooh.
Soraya the Falconer. She is a 2/2 for 1 white. Legendary creature, human, I believe. All falcons get +1/+1.
Pumps Mutavault.
I'm fairly certain
Yeah,
that
changeling deck.
she has actually been oracled to give all birds +1/+1. Falcon,
It's a little more.
tell me if that's
useful.
correct or not.
Yep, she has.
Aha.
And also, target bird creature gets banding until end of turn.
Instead of
So,
instead
big
of
whoop.
target
What?
falcon.
And she's also a legendary creature human now.
You know what
Yeah.
this does? It turns your birds of paradise into a storm crow.
Oh, well, actually, it turns them into 2/3s, right?
If you
Isn't
pump
birds?
it, too.
0/1.
Sorry, right. Birds is a 0/1. Right. So they're a 1/2 with banding. Well,
This set
that's
really
the rare,
reminds
isn't it?
me-
Or is there even a rare? I'm
Maybe
sorry,
that
you were saying?
Reminds me of my childhood.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, of when I first started playing Magic. I think what was
sideboard
it?
deck.
The Sengir Queen or Baron Sengir Queen?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Irene Sengir? No, Grandma Sengir? I don't know.
Grandma. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Evaporate. That's a weird one. 2 and a red for a sorcery. Evaporate deals 1 damage to each blue creature and white creature.
What if they're both blue and white?
I'm
They
sure.
get
I'm
1
sure
damage
the
each.
Oracle templating will make that a little bit more clear.
Evaporate deals 1 damage to each blue and or white creature.
Okay, and or all right.
A
So
creature,
you don't-
and the ruling is a creature that is both blue and white only takes 1 damage.
right.
Ah.
So I don't know.
The
This
art
like,
is great. There's like an orc casting a spell, and this guy's just like, whoa.
Oh no!
That's pretty good art, actually.
Oh, it's beautiful.
So this sort of like wrath their tokens. I don't know. It doesn't seem the worst as
Hey,
a sideboard
Yeah,
choice.
but when do
That's
blue
gorgeous.
and white tokens only have 1 strength?
A lot. Tons of
Snapcaster
soldiers.
Mace.
all of them.
Soldiers.
I wish that killed Geist of Saint Draft. If it
Nah.
did
Doesn't
one,
kill Geist.
I know if it killed. If it
Untargeted,
did,
that's true. But yeah, it's
You mark 1 damage on him.
spirits and soldiers in white. Pretty relevant.
Wait a minute.
What?
Oh no, never mind. For a second, I got excited and
That's
I thought
totally tech against lingering souls.
for a second I thought it was another weird corner case that killed True Name Nemesis, but damage is prevented.
no.
Marsh casualties though.
Really?
Yeah.
If you give it all minus stuff.
Yeah, creatures your opponent controls get -1/-1.
Oh, because you're targeting the opponent.
Yeah.
Oh.
Done.
Yeah,
son.
it's not damage.
Marsh Casualties is
It's real good.
it's a really good card.
Prophecy. Is sorcery for a single white. Reveal the top card of target opponent's library to all players. If it is a land, gain 1 life. That opponent then shuffles his or her library. Draw a card at the beginning of the next turn's
What?
upkeep.
That's terrible. Although, you know who that is in the
I was gonna say, yeah,
in
you
the
get
eye
10 points
reflection?
if you can tell me who's in that eye.
It's Ishan's Shade.
No, you're supposed to wait for him to guess.
Well,
That's why he gets
fine.
10 points.
I would never have guessed that ever.
Ishan's Shade, yeah, that great old legendary black bomb that has pro white.
That was in
Wow.
the Necropotence deck because you were forced to play cards from every set.
You were forced to? Oh, right.
Yeah,
At the time,
you
you
had to play cards from every single expansion that was out at the time. And so they're like, ugh, Homelands, let's put in this
he
Ishan's
is.
Shade.
Huh.
So it's not the straightest of garbage.
Wow. All right. Willow Fairy. This man is not wearing pants.
Honestly, wait, hold on. Back
Pardon?
to Prophecy.
Okay.
How good would that be if your opponent was just like scry, ooh, leaving that there, or like tutor something to the top of their deck?
I guess.
Womp womp.
Is it an instant?
No.
If it was an instant, it would be sweet.
Goblin Recruiter?
Whoa!
I was all excited, but then I
Shuffle
remembered
their
it was a
stack.
sorcery. Never mind, it's not very good.
Nope.
Back to
I mean, it cantrips itself. But, so.
Willow Fairy.
Willow Fairy. It is a 1/2 flyer for 1 and a green. We have the other art on Willow
Oh, it's
Fairy.
Green
Paul.
Stormcrow.
It is Green Stormcrow.
the way that guys.
Is that the only art on
loincloth-
Gatherer?
Weird.
Weird. It's totally not this art.
No,
Is that like some sort of reindeer?
That's what it looks like from here.
Weird.
the version we're looking at, the way the guy's loincloth is drawn is kind of indistinct, so it could just be incredibly long pubes.
That's terrifying.
Pardon?
How about a giant albatross?
Wow, you're right.
Okay, so albatross are large birds,
Yes.
right?
They're quite
Seagulls on
large.
crack.
Yeah. And this is a giant albatross.
So it's real big.
So what do you think the power and toughness... Oh, wait, hang on. First of all, there's the art for Willow Fairy.
Ah, there we go.
Oh, boy. So what do you think of the power and toughness of the giant albatross?
Oh, it's
2-1,
homeless.
2-2.
It's Homelands, 3/3.
What?
No, 1-2.
How about a 1/1?
Yo, what? Come on.
For a giant, a redundantly large albatross is a 1/1?
It's a 1/1 for 1 and a...
Flavor
For
fail.
1 and a blue. It has flying at least.
Oh, if it didn't have flying, I'd just tear the card up right now.
For 1 and a blue, bury all creatures that damaged giant albatross this turn. The controller of any of those creatures may pay 2 life to prevent that creature from being buried. Effects that prevent or redirect damage cannot be used to counter this loss of life. Use this ability only when giant albatross is put into a graveyard from play.
Take that, Color Pie. That really
as
sounds
you-
like a black ability.
As you may guess, that has been oracled slightly.
What's it say now?
When giant albatross dies, you may pay 1 and a blue. If you do, each creature that dealt damage to giant albatross this turn, or for each creature who dealt damage to giant albatross this turn, destroy that creature unless the controller pays 2 life. Creature destroyed this way can't be regenerated.
Huh.
That would be so much more useful if it wasn't a 1-1.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, right, because bury was the old terminology for destroy without regen,
Yeah.
right? Okay. Also, we have the other art again, not that it
Bury
matters.
you.
Is that the pack? Oh.
Nope, I got 3 more.
Oh, baby.
Dwarven Trader. You remember Dwarven Trader?
do.
You recognize the art anyway. At least it was one that I saw
This is
a
back
lot
when
of.
dwarves were still a tribe in
Yeah,
Magic.
it's a 1/1 for 1.
It's got the dwarf subtype.
So that's it.
Just a vanilla 1/1.
Yeah, it's a 1/1 for 1.
That's not even a dwarf. That's a person with a horse.
Maybe it's a pony.
Right.
Maybe
right.
it's
it
a
could be a
dog.
pony.
Nice art.
Yeah.
Doge.
Oh, the art is gorgeous in this set. Well, with the exception of the pantsless.
Oh, here we go.
fairy.
Here we go.
Ruh-roh.
Dark Maze.
I love Dark Maze.
So Dark Maze is a 4/5 wall for 4 and a blue.
That's big.
What?
For 0, Dark Maze can attack this turn. At the end of turn, remove Dark Maze from the game.
Oh.
Dark Maze cannot attack the turn it comes under your control. So it's a 4/5 that just sits there, and then you can be like,
And one
yeah,
time.
this attacks this turn, and then you exile it. So again, we have the different art. That's so weird. So why do you love Dark Maze?
It's another card from my childhood. It was like that card, Ishin Shade, just all these like giant cards that you kind of crammed into your 5-color casual deck and played. And
Yeah, with like 82 cards, and you're just
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I just can't make any cuts in this deck.
you're like, why can't I cast any of my spells? I've got my favorite 8-drop in
no,
hand.
just give me
and-
more time, then I'll play this Polar Crack, and then you can't win.
You're so lucky that in 5 turns I didn't hit 8 mana and just crush you.
I wish I hadn't used my turn one Black Lotus to play this Grey Ogre.
Dark Maze was reprinted in 5th edition too. So
Really?
apparently they liked it.
All right.
Dude, if you turn one Black Lotus into Grey Ogre, you can leave mana up for Lightning Bolt. It's crazy.
Oh man, and a card that I'm totally gonna take home and put in a commander deck I want to put together.
Ruh-roh.
The Anaba Bodyguard.
Meh.
It is a 2/3 Minotaur for 3 and a red, and it has first strike.
So that little guy in the green cloak, is that like his bodyguard or like his boyfriend?
That's the guy he's
or...
bodyguarding.
Oh,
The bodyguard is the Minotaur,
there we go.
and then he's bodyguarding the. I don't know. I
I
assume
missed
this
the
is.
bodyguard part.
I'm getting a sort of a Journey to the West feel out of this.
He's just like, I shall pay you many golders if you guard me on my journey.
All the art, the set's just so
Grunt.
nostalgic for me.
Yeah.
I'm
So I
glad
want to
rolled
do.
a
I
one.
want to do the commander deck I'm talking about. By the way, I want to do a Mogus commander deck.
Oh, yeah.
And even though he's not a Minotaur creature type, he is a Minotaur, and I want to do obviously black
Tributors.
black red Minotaurs, but
How many Minotaurs are there?
definitely including all the like old terrible Minotaurs from Homelands.
You know what? You should have a maze sub theme. Were you
man.
thinking that too?
No, but you
Oh.
get to play Didgeridoo.
Exactly. Yeah.
Isn't that the sickest?
Sweet didgeridoo text.
I liked my maze idea more than the didgeridoo one because
Because
like,
the
I
Minotaur's
trapped
in the
you in the
maze.
maze.
Maze's
Exactly.
End,
Oh, yeah.
Maze's End,
Oh yeah.
Like all the mazes. Maze's End, I don't think is as good because.
Mystifying Maze.
Wait, who's your general commander?
I
Lord.
mean, Mogus, the god.
Oh, he can be a. Oh,
Because he's not a Minotaur himself, but he is a Minotaur.
oh, that's so funny. I'm
Like,
just like
he's a Minotaur god.
Wait a
And he's
second.
he's red black. So
I'm
yeah.
just like fun.
And
question.
so
if you don't have
Paul,
devotion, does
just
he
we don't
count
have
as
it over
a
here.
commander?
Could you remind us what the didgeridoo?
Oh man, you could play Torian Molar in that deck.
Yep.
wait.
You want to know what the didgeridoo do?
I do.
Didgeridoo.
Oh no.
It's actually really awesome. In a Minotaur deck, it's a artifact, one colorless, and 3 don't tap even. Put a Minotaur permanent from your hand onto the battlefield.
Like,
What?
actually pretty
Shazam.
great.
Just get to ether vial your
Yeah.
Minotaurs.
But it doesn't unlike
Uncounterable.
unlike most of those effects, it doesn't even have to tap to do it. So you can do it multiple times each
Yep.
turn. And 3 is cheaper than most Minotaurs too.
Yeah,
It's cheaper than this Minotaur. Now,
that's awesome.
Serge had a judge question about using Mogus as your commander.
Yep.
You don't have
can-
devotion. Is he even a creature?
They do.
Ooh.
ca-
No,
they
they have to have allowed that.
they are creatures in all zones except on the battlefield if you do not have devotion.
Okay.
Oh, did you not know that?
No, I'm just teasing.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So yeah, you can use the gods as commanders if you so desire. They design them specifically with that in mind.
I didn't even think about that. That's kind of wicked.
Just like,
actually.
Yeah.
we made all these legendary creatures that you can't use.
There was a
as
great
commander.
post actually on the MTG judges blog talking about how the gods interact with Rurik Thar, because Rurik Thar deals 6 damage to any player that casts a non-creature spell. Like whenever you cast a non-creature spell, either player, Rurik Thar deals damage. And the post was all in like Hulk, like angry Hulk speak, so it was like all in caps, and it was like Rurik Thar not understand stack, right? But basically what it was saying is that the gods are still creatures on the stack. So if you cast a god, you are casting a creature spell, and Rurik Thar will not dome you out.
That's handy.
That's good to know.
Even
actually.
even if once it enters the battlefield,
It's an enchantment.
it is not a creature; it's a creature on the stack, which is interesting.
As opposed to bestow.
As opposed to bestow, which is very different. That's true.
Well, because you're casting it as an alternate type of spell.
You're casting
Like,
it as an
I
aura.
choose to cast this as an enchantment. So
Yes.
this enchantment is on the stack.
So I guess that means you could essence scatter one of the gods, even if it when it comes in it won't have
But
the
not a
devotion.
bestow creature. If it's being
Oh, my
bestowed.
brain.
Oh yeah, Alex.
I had a
No,
judge call.
stop.
I had a judge call at the Theros pre-release actually.
I'm so glad I missed that.
That was judge. Yes. Okay. I have a Perforos in play.
Oh boy.
I remember this one.
And I have enough devotion that Perforos is a creature. If I play my second Perforos, I had a weird pool. Will it? It was basically, will it trigger the? Because Perforos has this ability that whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you deal 2 damage to your opponent. And I was like, will that happen before I have to legend rule myself and decide which Perforos I keep? Like, can I cast this one Perforos to deal 2 damage to my opponent before I have to get rid of the other Perforos?
He was like,
I believe the answer was yes.
Does
Oh,
it trigger
sweet.
when it enters the battlefield or when you cast it?
I believe it's entering the battlefield.
When it enters the battlefield. So it should trigger.
yeah.
The judge told me yes.
Yeah,
Alright.
I believe
So-
the answer is yes. Don't.
Yeah, it is enter the battlefield.
Okay.
Last time I did another God-related question, a viewer, and by the way, thank you very much. I got something wrong and they corrected me, and now I know all about whatever that was.
Oh yeah.
And that was fantastic.
We
I
asked
think
you
it was
last time,
another
you-
God question.
Yeah, and
and
you
it
were
was
like,
right.
I think it works like this, and they were
Yeah.
like, no.
Yeah, I think I prefaced it with, I'm pretty sure I don't know, because I'd look it up if I actually had the call. I remember now. It was Thassa and a blink effect and being removed from combat and all that fun stuff.
Yeah,
and,
the devotion and all
yeah,
that.
and thank you very much. I learned something.
Layers. If you have any like weird judge questions, or actually just any judge questions, there's a judge chat. I can't remember the actual URL for it, but there's just like an IRC chat with Magic judges in it that's just online all the time, and you can go there and be like, hey, I have a question, and they can answer your rules question for you.
Hopefully it's a real game instead of just like, I'm bored and I want to break your head.
I mean, I think
Both.
they'd probably be up for that.
Okay.
All right, so before we move on,
Yeah.
what's your pick out of this Homelands pack?
Oh, God.
Surge?
Minotaur.
Graham?
Ugh. I don't know. I might take Soraya because she's a 2/2 for
No,
3.
but think about this, though.
And if I get any other Falcons,
Yeah.
wait, hang on,
If
Paul, can you quickly check for me how many Falcons were in Homelands?
None.
So I guess with Gather you're looking for birds in Homelands.
Yep.
Yeah, the thing is, like, now keep in mind when Homelands was printed, Giant Albatross did not count towards her Falcon count.
No, it
total,
did
but
not.
It would now. So we'll go in our modern rules. So,
Oh,
you can-
will we?
You can go
Oh,
into
okay.
blue-white.
Maybe I can
Was the
wield
albatross, was the albatross errata to just a bird, or is it still an albatross?
It would have been errated to bird.
So, like, if this was my first of what would probably be 5 packs, be like, Judge.
To be clear,
I
for those at home, Homelands was never designed to be drafted.
I wanna see
and
a Homelands
probably
draft,
probably
though.
ought never be.
All right, there is one Falcon. It is the Mesa Falcon.
That's wow.
It is a 1/1 for 2, and for 1 and a white, it gets +0/+1 until end of
Are
turn.
there only 2 birds in Homelands?
Yep,
And one of them's the albatross.
the albatross and the falcon are the 2 birds in Homelands. Homelands was all about the synergy.
Well, that's the amazing thing about
There are also no other. There's the
Are you sure there's no
shaman. There's the
falcons?
Anaba shaman, and there's like one other, and there's the
Hurloon Minotaur.
the Minotaur that you guys got,
Yeah.
and that's basically it for
There's other
Minotaurs
early
as well.
Minotaurs, but that was one of the jokes about why Homelands was so bad was that Baron Sengir, right, had this thing that checked on vampires, and there were no other vampires in Homelands.
Wait, what?
Or sorry, there were no vampires because he was not a vampire.
What?
He was a legend. And Irene Sengir was also not a vampire. She was also a legend. I believe she is now a vampire dwarf.
Where are the vampires at?
There were no vampires in the set, even though Baron Sengir was a vampire lord
Were there
and buffed
vampires in
vampires.
other sets?
Yeah, a couple. Not very many.
Not as many as there are now.
Yeah. It was super weird. It was like that's not how you travel, but they learned. They learned.
So Alex, what's your pick?
I drop.
And mine's the bodyguard. All right, moving
Nice.
on to our main topic.
So, we had some people ask us, like how do draft?
How do
And
a draft?
We're certainly not the kind of like like high level card evaluation-y spike kind of podcast that you should be going to if it's like, yeah, I know how to draft, but how do I get real good at draft? There's other shows for that, limited resources. But there's some people who are like, I seriously don't know how to draft. And I was talking to a fan when we were at the Escapist Expo, and she was saying that she and her friends drafted, and they drafted, and then after they drafted, they like traded some cards back and forth so they could get better decks. And I was like, nah, no, what are you doing? That's the whole point of the drafting. That's part of the game. And which is fine. They're just among friends and they're having a casual fun time, but they did not actually know how to draft. What's up?
What's drafting?
Well, exactly. That's what we're going to talk about. So drafting is, we've talked about drafting on the show a whole lot, but consider this the, what is that?
So
What's that? What's Paul put on the screen?
Backdraft.
Backdraft.
All right,
call it
But-
There's also downdraft and updraft.
Nice.
so
Consider this the draft primer.
yeah. If you want to have a draft and you want to invite a friend over who's literally never done it before, send them
you
this
are that
episode of the podcast this is you are trying to learn.
Yeah.
So basically, a draft is it's a group format of Magic where you play with 6 or 8 other people. We'll get to the reason why you have 6 or 8 in a second. And instead of building a deck like you would in Constructed, it's a limited format. Limited meaning you only have a certain pool of cards to build your deck from. So basically, you have 6 or 8 people because that enables your amount of cards to come out even. And you we'll say you have 8 because it's kind of the standard draft pod size, but you can do it with 6 if you can't get 8 friends together. That's really important. And basically, everybody brings 3 packs to the table. And
Or one person brings 3 packs and keeps all the cards, or
one person brings enough packs for everybody.
There's different ways to do that. That's up to you. How you get the
player
packs.
has 3
So,
packs.
Exactly.
Each player has 3 packs. And instead of just cracking those 3 packs and trying to build a 40-card deck out of them, what you do is you crack your first pack, you make a pick, and then you pass that pack along to the person beside you, and then the packs circle around the table till you're done. And then you open your second pack, and then you change direction, and then you take cards until they're done. You open your third pack, and then you change direction back the first way. So at the end of this draft, you have 45 cards because you still have your original 3 packs because you've made a pick every time you got a pack.
Yeah.
And then you build a 40-card deck out of that. Typically 23 spells and 17 land.
Yeah.
That's essentially how a draft works.
And so there's even
now
some
into the minutia.
Well, yeah, because there's even some idiosyncrasies in there that when I was playing with people at the GP that they weren't really familiar with. Usually, you'll open the pack, you'll take out the token or the ad card, whatever's in there, and the basic land, and you'll just chuck them into a pile in the middle of the table. This is a weird one. If you have a foil basic land, that stays in the pack because foils take the place of a common, and if it's a foil basic land, that's still part of the 15 cards in the pack that's considered a pick. So you do that. That's a weird thing. You pass to your left and then to your right and then to your left again.
Yeah. So Serge, is there a reason why you go left, right, left?
I have no idea.
No? Just
Arbitrary. I mean,
Yeah.
because it could be right, left, right.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, I don't
meh.
know.
When you see people now, I had a question. When you see people drafting sort of at day 2 of a GP or when you're watching coverage or something, they never look at their picks until in between packs, right? Like they make their pick. Also, you're not supposed to know what anyone else is drafting, so don't look at them. Don't let them see what you're picking.
Don't
You're
be
not
like,
supposed to
oh my
talk
god, I
at
got
the
You put
this.
it face
Time
down.
too.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
not supposed to, like, you can be like, oh, or something. You can do that, but you're not supposed to tell people what you're picking. If it's just casual among friends, it's like whatever. But
If you're at a store, if there's prizes on the line.
at casual enforcement level, you can look at your cards while you're drafting, right?
Now,
As long as you,
I don't know much
as long
about
as you
drafting.
keep them clear from.
Yeah, looking at stuff.
At least
there.
that's how it's been when I've been doing sort of
Oh, really?
casual enforcement at GPs or at the store.
Yeah, I don't actually know. One thing that might happen at the pro level is their picks are timed.
They are. They
When
sure
you're
are.
doing this stuff there, and that just seems like hell. If you were playing there, it's like first pick, you have 45 seconds. No, not even that long. I think it's like 15 seconds or something like that. And then you count the cards, put them beside you. Everything's laid out right there, and then there's a beep. You're like beep.
Yeah,
second
so
pick, you
everyone.
have-
Yeah, so that's something that, again, if you're drafting like at a GP for the first time, you'll hear people using terminology you might not be familiar with. This is something, again, that came up, that someone's like, oh, okay, so like, are we doing zoning, or like how do we like how are we doing this? And people are like,
Hell is
I don't
zoning?
never heard of
exactly.
zoning.
I will explain that. So there's a thing where you have your pack, right? Like I have my pack of cards, and I'm done. I've made my pick, right? And you are still making your pick, but there's nothing in between us, right? So I'm going to put my pack down.
Ooh.
And so this is face down beside you, and this will be the next pack that you pick when you are done with that one. Mm-hmm. In the meantime, I pick up my next pack and I look. And so there's two different ways, and I make my pick. You're still looking through that pack. There's two different ways to do this now. There's either the keeping the zones separate, which is I am not actually going to put this pack down until you've picked this one up.
Oh.
Or I just sort of put it down and let them stack up beside you, making it clear what order they're in. But you can get into a situation where someone is a slow picker, maybe because they're new or whatever, where they're looking at a pack and they have 3 or 4 packs, sort of ganged up beside them.
It's a bottle.
Yeah. Or you'll have people waiting to put it down so that they can then pick up their next pack, because they also can't pick up their next pack until they put their pack down.
Yeah.
So typically that's how judges, in my experience, that's how judges will ask you to do it at a GP, is to wait just so it's less confusing, so you don't end up with like a whole bunch of piles down there, and then because you could easily get into a situation, which I've seen happen, where
You grab the wrong one.
you grab the wrong one and then
You forget to pick up a pile, and then half your table doesn't have enough cards.
Well, I had it happen at a draft at YJ where someone got confused and passed their picks.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
They passed their pile of picks, which is why when I'm sitting down, I usually keep my picks face down, like half an arm's reach in front of me,
Yeah.
and horizontal. And then as the packs are going around, I have them sort of vertically beside me near the edge of the table, so that there's a very, very clear distinction between the cards that I've taken and the cards that are going around. And when I'm drafting among people who I know, and it's all very casual, I'm happy to play where we just let the piles, stack up. But if I'm at a GP with people I don't know and people who might be less experienced, I think doing the zone,
one pack at a time.
yeah, the zone passing is a lot better. Which is,
One
I guess,
pack, one pick.
yeah. To summarize, you can't pick up a pack while you are still holding a pack.
You can't look.
And
yeah.
and you can't put down a pack unless there is
Space for it.
space for it.
I think I prefer that as well. It slows it down, and I think if you're new, the last thing you want to do is look over
And see
4
5 packs,
piles,
yeah.
and then have this mental thought that, oh man, I'm holding everything.
I'm
up.
holding everything.
I need
up,
to
yeah.
go faster.
Which
So
you shouldn't feel rushed
And
about,
you-
especially at a casual level
Yeah.
draft.
No, and especially not
At a
because-
professional level draft, you are timed, but then if you're at a professional level draft, you've made day 2 of a GP,
You've
so you
yeah.
probably know what's up.
Yeah, you're not listening to this podcast if you.
it might be.
Well, I mean, they're not listening to this podcast to learn how to draft. So,
That's true.
okay, we've kind of explained it, but I think that people are visual learners. So, using this pack of homelands, we'll have Alex
Well,
go down.
I did sort of explain it. Also, not everyone watches the podcast.
Okay, if
Some
you're-
people listen.
But Alex is we're gonna
right.
kind of talk We are literally trying to teach people how to draft.
Yeah.
I just taught somebody how to do something. Explain it, and then explain it again.
Okay. What are we explaining?
Oh, look at these great picks.
You don't need to be sarcastic.
Inner monologue, Alex.
I
Inner
will
monologue.
take this body card,
So
but
we're-
I'm not going to tell
yeah.
anyone. I
Yeah.
will place it in front of myself.
So we're passing to the right. So I guess this is pack 2.
Yeah, I guess I
Okay.
should have given it to Surge.
Hey, Graham.
Yeah.
Do you shuffle your pack before you pass it?
Oh, that's a good question. It
I don't.
actually doesn't matter. You will see people, because people will sort of typically people will pull the cards that they are considering to the front of the pack and sort of weigh those options. And then you'll see them pick one and shuffle one up and like shuffle up the pack so that the next person over doesn't really know what cards they're considering.
Sick mind games.
Yeah, I don't think it necessarily really matters, but
Well, before we get into
Alright.
sick mind games,
Alright,
so
let's-
after our
let's finish
example,
this.
yeah.
okay.
Okay, so Alex has taken a card. He's
Okay.
put it down in front of him, and he has put the pack down beside Graham.
Yeah.
So then Graham picks it up,
Okay.
takes his card,
Sure.
and then puts it down, puts the pack down.
You lie.
Then I pick it up, right?
I don't
So
think
I'm
this.
not
I don't
taking
think
it
this needs to be laboriously re-illustrated.
Okay, but the point being, I'm not like I don't take it directly from Graham's hand.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
not
that's true.
Right? Like I'm not seeing what he's looking at. I'm not looking over his shoulder. Nobody's like being like, "Oh, this sick bomb. I'm totally taking this."
Yeah, I'd say
Right.
this
You're
evaporate.
dead. I'm passing you dirt.
You know, you may or may not shuffle afterwards. And then if Surge is still, looking through his last pack and hasn't made a pick, I can put this pack down. So he's got a pack there and he's still thinking about it. But if Graham then puts the pack down and passes it to me, even if I make my pick right now, because I know exactly what card I want, it's perfect, I'm still going to hold on to the pack I'm looking at because Surge has a pack beside him. That's what we mean by zoning. So even though I'm done and everybody else behind me is like waiting to go, Surge is still picking and he still has another pack. So until he picks up the pack that I've put down beside him, I'm not going to give him another pack. So that is basically the physical act of drafting. Because I feel like we're getting too much into the weird minutia, not
Yeah.
explaining how it works.
You literally said, now let's get into the weird minutia.
No, but like the
Earlier.
shuffling and zoning and
I think that's all relevant because that's the sort of stuff. The reason I want to get into that is because that's the sort of stuff that really intimidates someone when they're drafting for their first time at an actual Magic
Exactly.
event.
It's like, what's
when they're
zoning?
like, oh God, am I doing it wrong? And you see everyone shuffling and you're not familiar with it or something, or the leaving the foils in the pack. And
That'd be why.
I guess I
Yeah.
wanted to make sure that we explained exactly how to physically draft before
Yeah.
we got into stuff like that.
okay,
Basic strategies.
you did tell me to start
Yeah.
doing
Yeah,
the
yeah,
minutia.
yeah.
What do
But-
you pick?
Well, okay, so okay.
We always talk about first pick, right?
Yeah.
What would you pick?
I think so.
Should we
On
open-
top of anything else, one sec. On top of anything else, I think it's really, really good. And the way that I improved at draft and the way that other people who I know improved at draft, watch other people draft. There's a lot of content online. There's all the MTGO Academy videos. There's all the Channel Fireball videos. There's everyone streaming. Like friggin' Kenji streams every single day, multiple drafts, and you get a really great cross-section of the current draft format from watching him because he drafts so often. And watching other people draft is a really good way to sort of get a feel on what cards can be good and why, because the people doing these videos and streams will usually explain it. Mm-hmm. Having said that,
Yeah, well, also you have to remember that cards that are good in Constructed or Standard or Commander may not be good in Draft.
and
So
vice versa.
yeah, so cards that you think or maybe you're familiar with playing are not good picks for Draft for a variety of reasons. So
yeah, and there's things like, there's the general rules of thumb of like, just because it's the rare doesn't mean it's the best pick or whatever. But we'll go very, very simple. How do you start when you're drafting? There's a acronym that people have enjoyed using for years, which is
bread.
bread.
Bread and butter of drafting.
Exactly.
Bread.
And bread stands. It's the actual. So it's an acronym. The actual exact definitions vary depending on who you ask, but generally, it is bombs, which is just crazy bomb cards that can
It's a
win you the game.
planeswalker. It's a dragon.
it's an Eldrazi.
Yeah.
It-
well, that's harder to cast. But anyway,
Okay, the kind of card that should you resolve it,
It's a titan.
Yeah,
you have a
the Titans are
huge
so
board advantage. It does something really impressive. It really helps swing the game in your
When you
favor.
cast it, you do this.
And your opponent's like, uh-oh, right?
so B bombs are removal, evasion,
By removal, we obviously mean like kill spells, burn spells, like exiling effects.
Oblivion Ring.
Yeah, stuff that gets stuff off the table.
Then the E for evasion, which is like creatures with flying or unblockable.
Or land walk, maybe?
And then
Shadow.
A for attackers, which is
Horsemanship.
just creatures. And then D, I've heard either as like duds or defenders or like Drek, which is just like the other stuff that you have to fill out your deck with. Because this
The
is
orphans.
This is the thing. Like in constructed, you'll see like combo decks. You'll see very, very spell heavy decks. The meat and potatoes of a draft deck is creatures and things that affect the board. That is the most important stuff. And by affect the board, I mean either you are putting your own creatures into play or you are removing your opponent's creatures. That is the main way that draft games happen. That is the main way that you're going to win, is by directly affecting the board. If you've got cards that don't actually do anything to the board state of your creatures or their creatures, it's less relevant in draft because that's how you're gonna win.
Yeah, when you're drafting, you have to remember, like, you might have a fantastic tinkery combo commander deck where, you know, you get them and you mill them out and you increase your life total. But when you're building a constructed deck, you obviously can put whatever cards you want in there and whatever quantity that you're allowed to put in there. With draft, you're very limited, literally, in the amount of cards that you have to choose from and what might be in those packs, because it's just 3 random packs that you crack.
And that's just a general rule of thumb. But if you're just starting, it's really good to keep in mind. Like, obviously, when you watch these draft videos online with people who really, really know what they're doing, I've seen, you know, like an M13 super grindy game that the person only, I think it was like LSV, only had like 5 creatures in his deck, and 2 of them were Archaeomancers to recycle, you know, ridiculous spells that he was casting or whatever. And it's like, yeah, sure, that happens. But generally, you're going to have like 16, 17 creatures with, you know, 6 or 7 spells, up to you know, you typically are going to want to have 23 creatures and or spells and 17 land, and that is, again, not a hard and fast rule, but generally it is generally accepted by all the people who really know what they're talking about to have 17 land and
A good starting point.
23
Yeah.
spells.
Yeah, if you've never drafted before, 23 spells, 17 land.
There's nothing stopping you from going over 40 cards in your deck.
Don't do it.
But you shouldn't, because if you can't have less than 40, but the fewer cards you have, the closer to 40 you are. Please keep it at 40, but the closer to 40 you are, the more consistent your deck will be, and that's what's super important as well.
Yeah.
Also, brief minutia fun fact, there's no per card limit in draft. Yep. So if you draft 5 or 6 copies of the same card, it better be a good card, but you can run all 5 or 6 of those copies.
8 Garys.
Oh,
I remember a triple Innistrad draft where Jer had 5 Delvers.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no instants or sorceries.
Yeah.
It was weird, yeah.
So basically, you're going. So you open your pack, and I wish we had like a pack of just like M14 or something.
Like
to crack.
like a good pack.
like
We've got all the weird ones. I don't think we need to actually get
all
into
right.
like specific
So
picks.
okay, so you take your first pick, and it is, well, let's just say it's a planeswalker. Let's say it's
Lucky you.
it's a Johnny, and
Nice.
so is he in M14?
Yep.
Yep. He's
You'd be
two.
the 3-mana one.
Yeah, he's two white and 1, and you're like, oh, well, that's definitely a bomb. Fantastic. And you take a Johnny, and then you pass your pack to the left because it's the very first pick, and then you get your next pack, and there's only 1 white card in there, and it's really bad.
It's like Capation Knight or something.
Yeah, or something, you know, like you're like, ugh, I don't know much about draft, but I know that this card isn't very good. What do? Well, it's only your first pick, so you're not wedded to being in white. You could look at the other cards, look at what you think the best card in the pack is, and say it's a green card. You take that card, and you're like, well, I could be white green. I might just be white. I might just be green. Whatever. Leave my options open, and then you pass that pack to the left.
Obviously, you want to try and be white because you have this cool Johnny.
Yeah.
But
It might not happen.
It might not work out. Actually, if you want to get higher level with it, a recent episode of Limited Resources actually did a fantastic episode on navigating the draft, which gets very involved in things like this. Which after you've listened to this episode and then drafted a couple times, then maybe listen to that one. It's higher level than you need to be if it's your very, very first thing. But generally, we'd recommend, you know, try to stay on one color maybe for your first pack. Just you don't have to. And obviously your first couple picks are going to bounce around a little bit if it turns out that the color of your first pick you aren't actually getting anything good from it. But I'm pretty happy if I can stay generally in one color for my first pack, because then I'm sort of open for pack 2, and then I can sort of be like, oh, look at this cool rare I opened. And let's maybe go in this direction, or see what I'm getting past, see what sort of good cards are coming.
Yeah.
Because the last thing you want to do is end up with a pile of just like 5 colors.
My first card was white, so I have to pick all white cards so I can play my deck. And your deck is like, you don't want that, where your deck is not very good because you steadfastly stuck to one color, and so you end up with cards that are less good.
But on the other hand, you don't want to be like, I took the best card in a vacuum out of each individual pack, and now I have 5 color mess.
Yeah, and I have like I have a bunch of 4-drop creatures, but I don't have any 2-drops like at all, and like stuff like that. So basically, what you're trying to do, we'll get into your sort of
nitty-gritty,
basic composition stuff, but for colors, try to stay 2 color at max. You can play 3 color decks depending how much like fixing, aka like double colored mana, or effects that you can use, like
mode,
stuff like Opaline Unicorn that can tap for any color of mana and stuff.
Oh yeah, I think the color fixing. Yeah.
But don't worry about that so much. Just try to put together like a deck of cards, 1 color or 2, probably 2 realistically, and try to get the best cards that you can in colors that are good for you. So, your third pack comes around. Say you open your third pack, and this white-green plan I've been on has been working really well for me. And I open my third pack, and it's something like, I don't know, like a Sheevan Dragon. It's like...
Sure, yeah.
I don't remember what set I made this in.
That was just in M14, actually.
Oh, perfect.
They
all right,
Sheevan
so it's
Dragon.
like, that's 2 red and 2, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to think pretty hard about taking this, because it's a really powerful good card. It definitely falls under the bomb designation, right? Like, it's really good, but...
You're in pack 3. You've been taking white and green this whole time.
I've got cards that cast for 2 white, probably cards that cast for 2 green.
And Sheevan Dragon is a 6-drop with double red in its casting cost. It's a dragon, and it's big and scary, but it doesn't fit your deck.
No, it's probably...
You got to pass that.
Ship it.
It honestly, in a situation like that, and there's an even average green card or an average white card, maybe like a good combat trick or, a pacifism. A pacifism is it uncommon in M14?
No, it was common.
Common. A
It also
pacifism
beats Sheevan Dragon.
He does, actually.
But the thing is, though, a pacifism is common, and Sheevan Dragon is rare. But for your deck, guaranteed that pacifism will be better, even though it's not a rare card, because it's easy for you to cast, it's in a color that you're already in, and it affects the board the same way a Sheevan Dragon does. And it supports what you're already trying to build. Trying to splash into a third color,
Especially
if it's got
double casting cost.
double casting cost, is usually a mistake.
I mean, so you're just drafting casually or whatever. There's nothing to stop you from rare drafting or taking something that you think might be worth a couple bucks, or taking something because you're like, oh man, this is a rare that I actually really need
Want
for this standard deck that I've been building. There's absolutely no harm or shame in doing that. They're your cards, right? You can take whatever you want, but it is a better strategy in the draft to try and make your own deck better than making someone else's deck worse by
spike drafting.
It's like, oh, I don't want someone else to have this dragon. And you're never going to be able to cast it because it'll just make your deck bad. But it's like also there's 8 people at this draft. The chances of you going up against the person with the dragon is pretty slim. And also in that, as you said, in that example, the pacifism stops the dragon. So
Yeah. I find this happens to me in cube draft sometimes. Like, if I have no good choices at all, I will sometimes hate draft something.
Oh yeah, if you've
Where
got,
it's just like, there is nothing in this pack that's even the least bit useful.
it's like I'm not going to run any of these.
Yeah, it's
So then you're like, oh, you know what? We'll take the rare. Why not?
yeah,
but-
or you're in a situation where it's like the 6th pick, so like the pack is gone, or maybe we'll say the 9th pick. So the pack's already gone around, and I'm still doing my draft. There's no white cards. There's no green cards. Then it's fine to say, well, what's left of this pack? I have to take
What do
a
I
card.
not want to see?
Okay, well, there's a blue flyer in here, and I don't have a single flyer in my deck yet. I'm not going to play any of these cards. I'll take the blue flyer, right?
But it'd be better to even have just something on color to
It would
go
be
in your deck.
Yeah.
it would be better to take anything white or anything green, even if you're not going to run it. Like, okay, say there's a naturalize or a blue
Sideboard
flyer.
card. Yeah.
Oh, sideboard cards are so important.
Okay, the naturalize you're probably not going to run because you might not face an enchantment or an artifact, because there's not that many in the draft. But it's better to have a card in case you do face one, so you
Unrelated.
can get rid of that pacifism.
Tangentially related. M14. I was always pretty happy main decking one naturalize in M14. There was a lot of it was a slow
Theros,
format.
you
And there was
always
a
want.
lot of enchantments and artifacts.
yeah.
But that's neither here nor there for this particular discussion.
There's so many strategy things that you can get into, but like what we're just trying to say is try to stay on your colors. Don't hate draft. Don't unless there is a financial or other motivating reason for you
Which
wanting
is
to
totally
take,
which is totally fine.
which
There's
is
rare
good.
draft if you want to win.
Yeah, there's nothing.
Yeah.
There's no reason for that for you to not do that. That's totally allowed. Also, I see people being like, like when you're looking at like if you do like a sealed event, right? There was people asking like at a GP because you open your 6 boosters and then you log them and then you pass it around and you don't end up with the thing that you opened, and people are like, you can't just drop and whatever, that's like against DCI or whatever. No, if you open your pool before you even send it around, if you have something crazy in there, you can just leave. You can be like, I'm taking this and dropping.
Yeah, when they did
That's-
Modern Masters.
That's probably bad prize value because you paid $40 to enter, so the cards in your pool better be worth more than $40, and B, you have to somehow assume that you're not going to do well enough at the event, in which case, why did you even join the event? But you can do that. But yeah, you were saying at Modern Masters.
Yeah, Modern Masters, like people were playing sealed Modern Masters, and obviously there's some very expensive cards in there. I heard of a guy who opened 2 foil Tarmogoyfs, and instead of passing his picks,
He was like, drop.
no, I'm not going to do better than
See
what
ya.
these cards are worth.
Good,
And-
which is fair.
yeah.
But typically that's not going to happen.
Okay, so now, say you're you're like, all right, I got that color thing down, but what am I actually trying to draft? Like,
Strategies and
yeah,
stuff
what are
like
some
that.
strategies?
Even beyond strategy, well, I suppose this is strategy too. Rather than like an archetype or something like that, something to be very aware of when drafting is the general curve of your deck.
Yes, that's actually very important. Yeah, I don't think we should get into specific strategies, but the curve thing we definitely should talk
because that
about.
goes across anyone. So for those of you who aren't familiar what a mana curve is, if you were to lay out your entire deck in front of you based on casting cost, if you had your 1 drops, your 2 drops, your 3, and then upwards, and then positioned maybe as a pile of cards right on top of each other, you should be able to draw a line. And
A curving line.
hopefully a curving line. If your deck is doing this 1 drop, 2 drop, 3 drop, 4 drop, 5 drop.
If it's like wibbling around like a wave.
Yeah, ziggling everywhere.
that's bad.
It's not going to be great. And then what that does, and you'll hear people talking about, curving out or a tempo deck or something like that. The idea is every turn you want to be able to cast a spell. So on turn 1, ideally you can cast a 1 drop. Turn 2, a 2 drop. Turn 3, a 3 drop.
Living the dream.
So you're applying pressure every turn. And, even if it's turn 1, 1 drop, turn 2, 2 1 drops, you still have this pressure. And, aggro decks typically have a lower curve, and that means they have a higher percentage of cards in the 1 and the 2 drop slots, and then and they don't have anything 5 or higher. A control deck typically is higher. They'll have bigger bombs, and their lower spells will help them survive into that point.
And that's tough for new players because 5 mana spells and 6 mana spells are
Often very powerful.
often very powerful, and that's why they're more expensive. And you'll see people be like, oh, look at all these great spells, and you look at their curve, and then it's like, you have 5, 6 mana spells. You won't be alive to cast those 6 mana spells.
You have to get to turn 6
You have to
cast them.
get there.
Well, if you're lucky, you can cast 1 6 mana spell on turn 6. Realistically, unless you hit a land drop every single turn, which is also
Bad.
Not guaranteed.
that's not okay. If to hit a land drop every single turn, that is absolutely not guaranteed. You either have to start with 6 land in your hand, or you start with 3 and then you draw 3 more land. But that's not necessarily going to happen on turn 6.
Or be good.
So you have to think. So maybe if it's a 6 drop, it might be turn 7 or 8 before I can cast this, and will I still be alive?
Yeah, and so this would be another instance where I would recommend watching draft videos and seeing how people lay out their decks. The people who record the videos or who do it on stream are usually very good about showing you how they're deck building and why they're doing this, and you can see the curve that they're laying out and how you want, a certain number of lower end things and then a couple the most powerful, more expensive things to basically like the lower stuff to do damage and start this game happening and make sure that they can do damage to their opponent and not die, and then the more expensive later stuff to sort of close the game out hopefully.
Yeah,
but if you
Gertson?
weight it weirdly, it's
Simon Gertson is a really good, if you watch his drafts.
he drafts so differently than anybody else though.
But he's really good at just, even if you don't watch him playing, if just the drafting, he'll sort of like, all right, what's good for my deck here?
He's very good at explaining himself. He drafts in a very unique way, unlike anyone else I watch. I don't know if it's necessarily good for beginners, but it's certainly entertaining.
But what I like about him is he looks at his deck and he's like, all right, this is what my deck is trying to do. Here are my two options here. What is better for my deck at the moment? Say he's trying to work to, like, his deck, he's got this amazing 6-drop bomb, but he knows he needs to stay alive until turn 7 or 8. How does he do that? He might draft things with high toughness and low power so they could just hold down the ground and block.
The old turtle strategy.
You could basically turtle in. Or if he's trying to draft a super aggressive deck, he might pass over a more powerful 5-drop card in favor of another 2-drop card because what he wants to do is cast a lot of 2-drops early. So when you're putting together your deck, you need to go, well, my first, this really powerful card that I really think is gonna, I really want to play in this deck. I need to stay alive a long time, so I need to sort of have, the ability to stay alive that long. Or no, I'm just like, I've got lots of like really good like 2-3-drop spells. I just want to like get in there as quickly as possible before my opponent has a chance to build up their defenses. Maybe they have a big 5-drop, and so you kind of think, what are not only cards that are good for your curve, but say you have 2-3-drops and one is really defensive and one is really aggressive. Which one is better for what you are trying to build, right?
And yeah, that's really good. And the last thing that I wanted to talk about, because I think we've done a pretty good sort of primer on a lot of this. The last thing I wanted to talk about is, because we mentioned it a couple times, is the sideboarding. So in Constructed, you have your 60-card deck, and then you have a 15-card sideboard, and that's it. In Limited, in this case Draft, you have your 40-card deck, 23 spells, and everything else you drafted is your sideboard. And this is another thing that new players will do, is they will run cards that would be considered sideboard cards in the main deck, where they end up being sort of dead. So if you look at Theros block right now, there's a card called Shredding Winds, which is 2 and a green, deals 7 damage to a creature with flying. And that's fine. It's a fine card, and often your opponent will have a creature with flying, right? But you don't typically run this card in your main deck in game ones against people, because if they don't have a flyer, or if they have a flyer that is not important or that you don't care about, then this card is a waste of a card.
Yeah, you draw this card and you have literally nothing to do with it.
And it would be better served to be a creature or a spell that could actually interact with one of the creatures they do have. Yeah. If they have a whole ton of flyers and it's a big problem for you, then when you theoretically lose game one to a bunch of flyers, or even if you win game one but see that they have a bunch of flyers, then between game 1 and 2, you're like, I am going to put this Shredding Winds in the deck and take something else out so that your deck goes back down to 40 cards. And then you're sort of prepared. And it's things like Shredding Winds that only hit flyers, or things that only kill artifacts or enchantments. That's it's different in Theros when there's lots of enchantments. But cards like Shredding Winds, or like we mentioned, Naturalize, or things that are only good against a color. Like if I have, again in Theros, if I have a white deck, I do not put Glare of Heresy in my main deck, it's a white spell that exiles a white permanent. I don't have that in my main deck. But then, if I'm playing against any white player in game 2 and 3, I will bring in Glare of Heresy.
Yeah, but
because it's completely useless if you're not playing as white.
Yeah, it's important not to start that card in your deck, because if you're playing against a blue-red person, you literally have one card out of 40 that does nothing. And anything would be better in that situation. A creature that's not very good, anything. Because at least the creature that is bad is not a complete blank against your opponent.
And brief side story, I did have someone completely blow me out. James and I were talking about this the other day, or like when Born of the Gods was just coming out. I had an opponent live the dream on me where I cast Shredding Winds on his Akroan Skyguard which is deal 7 damage to target creature with flying. And he responded with hold at bay, which is prevent the next 7 damage to this creature. And I was like, no.
I thought it was something even more narrow, like target creature loses flying. You're like, ha!
What?
Why do you have that?
That would be super narrow.
Yeah. Something very important, just going back to early etiquette. When you draft a deck, and you've chosen your 23 spells, and you've chosen your 17 lands, and you have all these other cards for sideboard, you're supposed to change your deck back between games. So you finish your first round, you've sideboarded a whole bunch of stuff. Even if you know what your next opponent is playing, if it's a casual draft, it's a courtesy, and it's sort of expected that you keep those same 23 cards consistent for game one every time.
Yeah. And I guess actually I said sideboarding would be the last thing. I guess, oh God, this is such a deep topic, but you mentioned it just there. You're like, you picked your 23 spells and you've picked your 17 land. How do you pick your 17 land?
Oh,
It's
very good.
It's probably one of the hardest things about drafting, to be
Yeah,
honest.
well, it's any deck building.
Yeah.
I love this topic,
great.
and I have
Well,
a very good friend who is a math geek, and he actually taught not an official class, but a little impromptu class at Yellow Jacket about math in Magic cards, and it's so important on it's probability. You can use very, very calculated math on stuff like that, because you have the question, I have a 6-drop in hand. I want to guarantee that I can cast it on turn 7 every game. How many mana should I include in my deck? And like those kinds of questions. Right. Or similarly, I'm going to tie it in Highlander because we always do. I'm playing Red Deck Winds, an archetype where I want to play basically Lightning Bolt and aggressive creatures and stuff like that. And there's the Avacyn Restored Miracle Burn spell that I can do 5 damage for 1 mana if it's a miracle. Or I think it's 6 to do 5 later.
Thunderous Wrath.
Thunderous Wrath. What is the probability of drawing it as a miracle? Am I okay with having it not as a miracle? What is the minimum amount of damage per mana I want to have in the deck?
Because also when it's not casting as a miracle, it has double red in its casting cost.
Yeah, and all these questions. These are all very, very important questions, regardless of what format of Magic you're playing.
So if we're talking as we have been about sort of like ideally you have a deck that is 2 colors.
Yep.
Like let's keep it simple, as you should for your first draft.
I strongly recommend for the first couple times you draft,
try to keep
it to 2 colors.
So you've got your 2-color deck. So 17 land, you're looking at 9 lands of one type, 8 of the other type.
Maybe though.
Right. Well,
yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So say you have it's basically down the line, right? You got your 23 cards,
50-50.
right? So you've got 12 of one color and 11 of the other, and the mana costs are most of the spells in the deck only have one colored mana symbol in the casting cost. You're good with 9/8. That's the general
9
basic
in
stuff.
favor of the 12.
If I may simplify it.
But yes,
yeah. So when we're talking about stuff like that, you want to lay your deck out in front of you and count how many instances you have of both. So you want to look at how many white cards you have, how many green cards you have. That's sort of what Graham was hinting at there. And then something very important too is count how many instances of a mana symbol you see in each card. So say you have, you're for some reason doing 22 cards instead of 23. So it's perfectly even. You have 11 white cards, 11 green cards. You'd think, I could do 50-50, but you look at your white cards and every one of them has 2 white symbols in it.
Yeah.
And all of your green cards only has 1 symbol. That isn't even.
Say you're basically even between green and white in Theros block, but a bunch of your white cards, you've got like 2 Vanguard of Brimaz and a Phalanx Leader, which are both have white in their casting cost.
Yeah.
And your only green lower drops are 1 colorless and a green. And you want to make sure that you hit that Vanguard of Brimaz on turn 2.
Yeah, nothing feels worse than not being able to cast your spells and falling behind.
You're going to want to weight your land maybe 1 or 2 more in the direction of planes, right? You go like 10-7 instead of 9-8, or maybe
even 11-6.
Maybe even 11-6 if you have like 14 white cards and math here, 6 and 3, 9 green cards. It's you basically just have to sort of broadly speaking, you want your ratio of land to be sort of at parity with the ratio of the mana cost on the spells,
Yeah.
but you have to take the curve into account. So like if I have a Theros deck that has like a bunch of double blue spells, but they're all like Prescient Chimera or Prognostic Sphinx or Tromokratus or
Endgame
something,
stuff.
And you have,
which
like,
is all like turn 5 and
7
higher.
or 8 turns maybe to get there.
Yeah, I don't necessarily need to worry as much about making sure I have the double blue because I won't need that until turn 5. Whereas way down the other end, if I don't hit my Vanguard of Brimaz on turn 2 with its double white, I'm going to be behind. And so it's I don't have a good solution. I don't think we have a good solution
is a
other than feeling it out as you go.
Yeah.
It's something you have to pick up.
So a good rule of thumb for beginner though, if you want to, it's not a super competitive event, and you want to do it, count the total number of mana symbols you have. So in 23 cards, I have 18 white, I have 14 green. You can do whatever that works out at a percentage. So it's roughly 60-40. So when you go through your 17 lands, make that look the same. And then that is a great place to start. And then with experience, you'll start to understand what we're talking about. You want your early drops early. And, you can fiddle with the ratio, but you can't, well, obviously you can't, I can't say you can't go wrong. It'll be a great starting point.
So, like, just do a little bit of basic math.
Yeah.
It's not hard.
Everyone's got a calculator on their cell phone now.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's true.
exactly. So, obviously, there's lots of different resources if you want to get into the depth of drafting. But hopefully, after listening to this, you know physically how to draft,
Yeah.
what you're expected to do when you turn up,
Yeah.
what you can expect as the cards are going around, a couple of things to keep in mind when you're trying to make your picks. It's really hard, and don't expect to be super confused the first 2 times
I'm a
you do
terrible
it.
drafter.
It takes, because the thing is, obviously, it changes not only with the type of packs you're drafting, but the people you're drafting with and what kind of decks they're liable to pick and all sorts of stuff
Yep.
that makes it actually, and we're making it sound hard and scary, but it actually makes it fun and
Oh, it can
exciting
be
and
a ton of
rewarding, and
fun,
it's
yeah.
different every time, and
don't
that's
forget
why
that
people really like drafting.
You can build a great deck and still get your butt
Oh, absolutely.
kicked
there's
completely
variance,
out
Mm-hmm.
in the first round just because you're up against a bad matchup. That doesn't mean that you did badly.
Yeah.
It's just like, hey, that's literally the game of Magic.
Yeah, for the rest of the games.
Yeah, but hopefully now you can pick some cards that you think will make a decent deck, put them together, and then
Have fun while
have
doing
fun.
the whole thing.
Actually, before we go though, this is something that really, really I found so difficult when I first started drafting, and I always used to be like, "Help! What do I cut? How do I make cuts?" Right? I only want to run 40 cards. I really don't want to run 41. God help me if I run 42.
Ugh.
So I really got to get down to that 23 creatures, and so 16, 17 creatures.
That's a big question.
7,
I don't
8.
know.
I've got some good rules of thumb.
Okay.
Number 1,
Knock them out.
identify sideboard cards.
Yeah.
We talked about that a little bit
Yep.
before, but you're like, I find this card's a little bit too narrow. I can drop it there. Step 2, look at your curve. If your curve isn't quite there, you're like, I really want to play both of these 6 drops, but realistically, I shouldn't do that. So I should cut one of those just to make my curve look better. It can be hard. It could hurt your gut, but you're like, it'll be better for the deck in general. Third thing I like to look at is casting cost.
Yep.
And I say that different from the curve. Your curve might be rather elegant, but if you're like, oh man, I have all these double casting cost spells here or there. Suddenly, if I cut in looking at green, I'm a green-white deck. If all but 2 of my green spells are single green and 2 are double green, I might just cut the double green ones, and all of a sudden my green becomes a lot easier, and my whole mana curve becomes a lot. The curve. Oh, I have to move my car again. Oh, that's super awkward. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
This happened in another tap concede. My last point there, yeah, and suddenly this makes my mana curve easier. This makes my mana distribution easier, all from just taking out 2 cards. Those are how the process I go through making cuts.
And again, that's going to be something that you're just going to have to sort of pick up as you go and watch other people, and it'll be
And
something that you'll learn.
If it's your first draft, feel free to ask for help. If it's a casual draft, it should be because it's
absolutely.
your first draft.
Yeah.
There'll be people who are more experienced who'll say, okay, what kind of cards do you draft? What does your deck want to do? Well, maybe that card doesn't contribute as much as this card, and you've got this card set to the side, but you don't need 2 copies of that card, even if it's really good.
Yeah.
Take one out. There you go. So
I think, I mean, I hope that answers your question, the person who asked on Twitter, and I think that was a pretty sweet, draft primer. You've never drafted before.
Yeah.
Here's what's up. And there was one more thing. Someone wanted us to name their deck.
Someone wanted us to name their standard deck. It's a Axebane Guardian Doorkeeper Mind Grind deck. So for those of you who are not familiar with what those cards do, Axebane Guardian is a defender that you could tap to add mana of any color.
Equal to the number of defenders.
Equal to the number of defenders you control. Doorkeeper is tap and target player mills equal to the number of defenders you control.
It's not just tap. It's tap for 1 and a blue, I believe.
You have to activate
or is it 2 and a blue?
It might be 2 colorless.
It's 2 and a blue.
Two and a blue.
Oh, it's 3. Okay.
And Mind Grind is, of course, X, so as many mana as you want to pay for it. Black and blue mill that many cards. So it's a mill defender.
Bug mill. Wait, bug. So the things we're looking at, we have mill, we have defender, and I want to somehow incorporate Totally Lost. Now, Totally Lost, I want to bring up because the artwork is the same.
The little homunculus is on the doorkeeper.
However you pronounce that. For
Fibblethip.
Fibblethip.
Is that actually how you pronounce it?
It's Fibblethip.
I've always tried to just sound it out. That's awkward.
Yeah. According to Wizards, it's pronounced Fibblethip.
Fibblethip.
Yeah.
We came up with an awful one. Can we repeat that one?
The Millfender?
The MILF Ender? That sounds awful.
Yeah.
I was gonna say City of Millwrights because it's like you build a castle and you just grind them right out.
Because you got all your defenses up.
Freshbread.deck because you grind them out with milling.
Oh!
Wow.
All right. I think we're done. Fresh bread.
Fresh bread. You have to but we have to think of something breakfast related. Because aren't all the great decks named after breakfast?
What are they?
Cephalid breakfast.
Well, those
And
are
eggs.
that specifically aren't those related?
Eggs,
Aren't those
cephalid
all
breakfast.
the breakfast decks? Aren't they related to the sunrise?
I don't know.
Well,
but that's also a mill deck.
fresh bread's pretty good.
I love
Wait,
fresh bread.
Bed and breakfast. Go to sleep.
I like fresh bread. We'll go with that one.
Fresh bread. All right.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks everyone for listening to this week's Tap Tap Concede. Thank you, Serge and Alex, for joining us for our Drafto Primer. And we will talk to you next time. If there's a topic you would like us to discuss, please hit us up on Twitter at LRRMTG or at LoadingReadyRun. And thank you all for talking. We'll talk to you next time.
Bye.
Bye.